so clear. When my heart is breaking, I can close my eyes. It's already here.
Hey, welcome to the Jen and JD show. It's been roughly 16 months since we made one of these.
I know. It's like, what have you been doing? I've been reading comic books.
Yeah, well, I've been reading teen fantasy. But other than that, we went one-to-one.
We went one-to-one BYOT. Every single student brings a device. We support the device. Unless it's a Kindle Fire. Those original generation Kindle Fires just did not like our network.
Did not. But the walls are still standing. Everybody's still smiling. So it worked.
You know, that's kind of the funny thing. Because, like, I blogged about the first 2 weeks of BYOT last August. And understand, we're in year 2 now. So it's been a while. Hi, missed you.
Been a while.
It was the surprise of, okay, so we had to get through some panic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there were like lines of students needing to reset passwords.
Because we went whole on, like everybody in the same week. So, yeah, there was a lot of passwords. A lot of how do I get a device on a network in general.
But then, a week and a half into it, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an administrator who was doing a walkthrough who said, and the teacher said, pull out your devices. And they did, like it was normal.
Right.
And that's kind of, we sat around for like a month waiting for the sky to fall.
Right.
And it never did.
I think everybody kind of did because we kind of waited and it didn't.
Yeah.
So let's think about some of the things that we did ahead of time. One of the things, we took a long time to do this. So it was about a 3-year process of from discernment to let's try it this way to pilot to actual implementation. So that time, and in that time, we spent a lot of time with teachers in professional development, either round tables, brown bag lunches. We did boot camps the summer before we went live. So there was a lot of conversation, a lot of tech petting zoos where people could try stuff out.
And understand, for those of you who are looking at one-to-one programs, dipping the toe in the water, the conversations that we started out with were not...
anything.
Should we use an iPad or an Android tablet? Like, we didn't even talk about that. It was...
What do you need to teach and learn next year, 3 years out? Let's dream 5 years out.
Yeah, and from those conversations, that's where we heard kids need access to the files and the materials in their classroom, in their library, in the hallways. We need to give them access. And that, when you give a big issue to a tech, that's when we can geek out. So I think that was a huge piece of it. I loved the roundtable discussions, the talks with students, the talks with teachers.
Parents,
and taking the time to digest what those ideas were and to think about it, and then to come back and say, okay, this might be one solution, what do you think? And then continuing that discussion.
Right,
that
and then we found our way through. And we had a pretty narrow, through all that conversation, then a pretty narrow objective. With the access, and then evaluate so you can get to all this stuff. Is it any good? And then use it freely. So we really funneled that conversation down. But you also built a pretty killer infrastructure.
You know, our infrastructure rocks. And that's, so much of it is...
Over time.
It helped that we had a pilot year. It helped that we had a year of voluntary to figure out what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. It helped that we aimed big.
Yeah.
You know, we have 750 kids in the school, and we said, let's build a network where every person could have 3 devices.
Right. So some of the takeaway then that all of this experience, now that we're looking back on it, we also figured out that our classrooms, rows of chairs in 1950s configurations, is really not conducive to, it does not complement a one-to-one environment quite to the way you want it.
Right. So as we started talking to teachers about what was working and what didn't work, as we watched students during these drop-ins and these walkthroughs, it was fascinating to watch the students and the teachers come to this consensus that our classrooms couldn't support BYOT. Our classrooms were having trouble supporting one-to-one because of the increased use of group work, because of the increased use of collaboration.
Right.
And so they wanted to be able to go from individual work to group work to paired work quickly.
Right.
And desks don't do that very well.
No.
No. The technology needed to be adapted. The classroom technology, the number 2 request from students. Number 1 is always unblock Facebook.
Which we have not done.
But we unblocked Twitter this year. But the number 2 request was we need to be able to share our screens quickly. We had, teacher upon teacher who would, answer a student's question with, I'm not sure what the answer is to that, look it up. And the student would go above and beyond and have a map they wanted to share.
Or a graph of some data that they needed to share.
And then not be able to do it quickly and efficiently without a teacher logging off or without sending a website. So how do you quickly share those screens? So it took some time over the summer and in talking about what the new classroom would look like. To redesign that. So.
Right. But because of those conversations and knowing what we needed, then when we went to NeoCon up in Chicago to see the layouts and to see what the designers were coming up from an architectural standpoint, and then we found the barcode system of ClickShare to figure out how to get the student screens up. And so once we had that identified need from the community, you could go out and find ways to meet that need. We also found out a lot about freshmen. So anyone who teaches at a transitionary period, I would even say elementary to middle to high school, high school to college, there's a lot of social and process changes that happens in your world, and coming from 43 sending schools into our school, there's some adaptation. Well, and then you bring them into a one-to-one learning environment. So we found that our juniors and seniors, they were okay because they kind of knew the culture. They had the culture of the school and the process of the school down cold. So one-to-one was just sort of new, but not that big of a deal. Our freshmen struggled. And so we came together as a community when we started noticing that they were struggling by grades, by stress, by just conversation with students and having them be known. And we got white butcher paper and markers, and we started brainstorming what can we do to help them out. And we came up with things like teaching calendaring, being more intentional in modeling expectations, clearer expectations.
Some of this gets into the conversation about the difference between a digital native, which is just the most overused term in education right now, and digital citizen. We don't have a genetic tendency to be organized on a computer. So you can't just put a tablet into a kid's hand and say, and now you're organized because you're a native. And so walking them through that process, if they've never had exposure to that before.
Which they really hadn't, certainly not for school.
It has to be done intentionally.
So that was sort of some of the stuff that happened in year 1. Now that we're in year 2, we are looking at sort of what's next kind of pieces.
And that's a challenge.
One of the things that we're really lucky in, we were approached by Boston College, some researchers there, who got a grant to study one-to-one programs in Catholic schools. So, of course, we invited them in. So we are actually going to bring some researchers in on the ground level. We'll keep you abreast of their research and what they're doing. We can't, this is their show. But it'll be great to have some outside eyes coming into the building. We're also in an accreditation year with our Office of Catholic Education from the Archdiocese and ISACs. So in a sense, it's a good year to have a lot of outside eyes come into the building, because we're in a good groove. But we know there's always something better. You can always improve your practices. But sometimes our own silos get in the way, and it's good to have some other eyes come in.
So since we took this huge break of 16 months, we've thought, okay, how can we shift up the format a little bit of the show? By the way, we've missed all of you. We're going to, so one of the things we thought we might do is start to open this forum up a little bit. And to start off with, because yesterday was Parent-Teacher Conference Day at my children's school, and because we were completely ill-prepared for having babysitting, we decided to bring in 2 students from a different school that is going through one-to-one iPads. And Jen was nice enough to interview my daughters.
His kids.
So here's some of that.
And together they sing, fun time, every minute, every second will help you focus on the fundamentals. The weird dude says, I'm Professor Funtime. And the calculator says, and I'm Gizmo. And we're here to help you prep for your big test. Oh, hi, everybody. We're just doing a little reading. I have some special guests with us this afternoon who have been kind enough to join us on the show. So if you would please, special guests, tell us your name and your grade in school. You can go first.
My name is Aileen Ferries-Rowe, and I'm in grade 4.
I'm Sophia Ferries-Rowe, and I'm in 7th grade.
Excellent. And I happen to know that these two young ladies go to a school that recently, Dave and I've had, to everyone 4th grade and up, or 3rd grade? Who
All
got
the
it?
grades,
Okay.
but 2nd and 3rd can't take them home.
Okay.
4th and up can.
Very good. Thank you. So, do you have a favorite app at this point that you like to use for school?
I like Stack the States.
What do you do with Stack the States?
They ask you questions, and you have to pick the right state, and then there's a finish line, kind of, and you have to stack the states to that line.
Sophia, do you have a favorite? Or most used?
I use Temple Run 2 or Google Drive.
I also use Safari. Yeah.
What do you do with Google Drive?
Write lab reports and essays.
Do you use those both sound sort of like kind of independent things you do at home or, in a study period. Do you use the device in class, like as a whole class?
Yeah, sometimes we go on online and we take tests.
Okay.
They have this IPS online, and they have tests and assignments for you. They have a daily calendar,
Mhm.
and every day they have an assignment, and it's on the daily calendar. So if you didn't listen to the teacher, then you can just go on IPS online and look at the assignment for the day.
And so far all we've used is in science. Every week we have a different brain pop assignment. Animated education.
It's a website.
Yeah.
So you played a little.
Well, all the classes have to watch something related to science every week. A different subject every week.
Well, do you have, now that you are veteran students using a device in class, do you have any advice for a teacher who might be either starting a new year, suddenly every kid's going to have a device, or even as someone who's had devices in the classroom?
I have some advice that you have to have a teacher with really good eyes.
Explain, please.
And I say that because a lot of people get on their games when they're supposed to be on IPS Online or doing an assignment on an app. Or one time, guy, he was playing on his iPad, and he got taken for the whole day.
That was hard to do his work then. So how might a teacher have good eyes too?
They have to not be on their computer that much.
Okay, fair enough.
They need to walk around the room, I guess, and check. Cause oh, and check for hands in the desk.
Ooh, that's a good one. Sophia, do you have a...
My advice is just you're not going to be able to control every little thing the student does, because there will be students who just find ways and get away with it, playing their games on their iPad when they're supposed to be doing work. But make sure the students know the consequences of what, just make them know that if they catch you, you will get it taken away. And it'll be easier if you just get your work done in class. You do have to walk around the room, but you're not always going to be able to prevent them from playing games.
Cause they will listen to you and say, okay. And the next day you see them playing on games.
Right. Well, and the teacher doesn't go home with the students either, so you guys could, you don't sort of learn the consequences.
Yeah.
You could be home puttering around on whatever and not get your work done either.
Yes.
Well, you guys are pretty smart young ladies. We just had a big session of the grown-ups having the same
Yeah,
thought.
I see that.
You see that on the board. We talked about helping students focus on a single activity, that it's good, and some of that's modeling, not being on our computers checking email and
And then if you're
Facebook.
on your computers, then they're not watching. I mean,
Right.
They're watching your computer instead.
Well, we're kind of showing you it's okay to be
Yeah.
playing around on a computer and not.
I mean, you can be on your computer if you're showing something on the overhead.
Yeah.
But that's like the only time.
Well, thank you very much, ladies, for joining us on our thrilling vlog here. It's good to see you.
You might have noticed during that break that somebody wandered over and put his Google Glass on.
Because I'm awesome.
Yes, that's another thing I've been dealing with in the past couple of months is little blinking lights every time I try to talk to him.
She's been dealing with the fact that I'm awesome for years.
Let's
Okay,
see.
so 1-to-1.
1-to-1. Sometimes 1-to-1 is a little less than perfect. And what was interesting for me, and I'm going to go out of order, we actually do have notes, but I'm going to go out of order a little bit, is one of the things Ailey mentioned about the teacher needing a lot of eyes.
Yeah.
Because that's a 4th grade classroom, and talking to Ailey, that concept that the teacher needs to be there to keep the kid on task rather than the young person taking ownership for their work on the device. And that's a different conversation for a 9-year-old, a 7th grader like Sophia, or a freshman, sophomore in high school.
Well, and the idea, embedded in some of that, and I think some of that came through in talking to Sophia and Ailey, that, they use these devices, and some of the devices they use for activities that they understand what they're doing. They understand
Right.
there's a book on here and I'm going to read it, and they understand that there's an app that can help me do math problems and I'm
or
going
type
to
a
use it.
paper.
Typing a paper.
Yeah.
But that the idea that this is a tool for your organization,
Right.
they don't have that.
Right.
And so one of the things that I was surprised by when I went to the parent-teacher conferences is the huge amount of independent learning that is currently being expected of
9-year-olds.
9-year-olds because they have a device in their hand.
Right.
And the amount of time that they spend in class working independently with a
Right.
tablet rather than working as a community of learners.
Right.
And the loss of connection that appears to be, not just me feeling it, but like I was feeling it from some of the teachers as they were like, and we're not really sure if we like all this, but we have to do this.
Right.
And it was that impending sense of, well, we have to do this because, and the because was always unstated.
I would say, so is there a goal to this program?
And it, in some ways, it seems to be we need to collect data, or
Okay.
we need to, the claim.
Which they might argue is
Sure.
a valid goal, is collecting
Yeah.
data. Because in Indiana, if you don't know, public school teacher pay is connected to particular growth goals and
Yeah.
of their students, and it's supposed to be individual
Right.
student learning objectives. So how do you measure that? Well, you give them a device and have them take a test every 5 seconds.
Yeah, and so that was, as I was watching it, thinking about what the ideal of using a device is. The goals were very different from these two schools.
Yes.
The goal of students having a device so that they become independent learners
Right.
is different than students being given a device so that they can independently go through steps that collect numbers. And it was kind of sad.
That's quite interesting.
Oh.
I think we're about out of time because we're trying not to be too verbose here. even
Right.
though we've had a lot to cover. So there's the blogs. We'll be interviewing some more young people. Try and get my children on camera if they're willing.
And we will see you.
Sooner than 16 months from now.
Great. Have a nice week. Okay.
Ah, look, and the cyborg is back.
You killed the android.
I didn't touch the Android. You're the one who had to go show off his Google Glass because you're one of 14 people in the state or something ridiculous to have those things?
Okay, let's start again. Is he looking?
I actually.